Chapter 1. The Fetus in the Gutter. A fool is the man who kills the father, and leaves the child so that he may take revenge. Aristotle.
Nahm always says I should have died. He's a shaman. He can see death when it comes. Death was in me already when he found me.
So small.
He'd say, again and again.
So much death in you.
But I never saw him turn someone away, not even the animals I brought home. He said that was a shaman's duty. He had life in his hands. That's why he didn't leave me in the gutter, with death. Sometimes I think he's right. I should have died. At least for his sake. I can be such trouble. I like being alive, though. Being alive is good, mostly. The exception is stairs. On days like this, when my leg is better, Nahm lets me tag along to Beck. The apartment building we're climbing rises so high I get dizzy looking over the railing. We had to take the stairs up 30 floors because the lift is broken again. The old woman we take care of here is lame, like me, only she can't even hobble around like I do. She hasn't left her room in months. Nahm always makes a point to visit her when we're in the area, even though she can't pay. Today, Nahm tells me to stay outside while he goes in. He tells me to look out at the ocean since I'm rarely able to climb so high. Most of the island of Beck isn't so different from Noak, our home, left for nature to reclaim. I can see our little island from here, a black speck on a blue plain. Between here and there, a strip of blue ocean, a strip of white beach, a strip of green forest, then the gray walls of Haesong. Nahm has something he calls a religious exemption, a thing on his ID that lets us go outside the city limits. Our little boat isn't harassed by Hwarong patrols on its way across the strait to Haesong. Here we make our rounds in the slums selling medicines. Sometimes I'm embarrassed. How funny we must look, a limping old man and a limping little boy leaning in on each other like a pair of crutches trying to walk. Today's visit takes longer than usual. When Nahm returns, his clothes smell like rot.
She is dead,
he says, closing the door behind him. I nod. Typical Nahm. The man never lies, least of all to me. One day when I asked him why I looked different from other children, he told me exactly what I was. He told me about that day. His shop in Haesong was small, just one room. He sent his customers away and fed me and sang to me and took care of my burns. He named me Nocte, which means great joy. He said it wasn't right to die without a name. But even though I'd been aborted, I didn't die. Eventually he just started calling me Nock. I don't remember his shop in Beck. He sold it and used the money to get me an ID from a friend. Then he took me to live on the island Noak, south of Beck. He cleaned up an old hut, a hermitage, he called it. I remember strangers would visit us, bald, dressed in robes, beads around their necks and wrists. He always brought them in and fed them. He called them pilgrims, traveling to the other islands in southern Goryo. 2 different men came very often. One only pretended to be a pilgrim to get food. Nahm eventually quit letting him in. The other was a pilgrim, and I got the feeling that he and Nahm were old friends. I'm badly burned and red all over with patchy hair on my head. Nahm's friend helped shave it bald, like his. One day, he brought me some gray robes and a cap and face mask. I never saw him again after that. Nahm cried when he left. When I could pull myself around a little on the floor, Nahm began leaving me on Noak while he went back to Beck. We had no money, so he'd tell me to stay quiet and out of sight, and leave me food for a week or 2. If I was very good, he'd bring me a gift. The first one was a beaded necklace, which he hung around my neck. Nowadays we spend most evenings gathering clams at low tide when he's home. I can sometimes walk for hours now, if we take a break for Nahm to massage my leg. The ocean is clean on Noak, with plenty of shellfish. As the sun sets, we'd limp back up to the hut. The air is clean too. Salty wind, pine, roasted kimchi, and burnt fish. After dinner, Nahm would reveal his most valuable treasure, a zither. It's old, but he takes such care with it. I'd run my hand over the polished wooden surface, thinking how I'd never seen anything so beautiful. You can't usually see the stars, but seated by the fire, I'd look up at the sky and imagine them while he plucked an old tune.
Come, let us go. Let us live on the Green Mountain, eating wild grapes and leeks. Let us live on the Green Mountain. Come, let us go. Let us go and live by the sea. foraging for wild clams. Let us go and live by the sea. The birds cry when they wake. Cry, cry, birds, I have more troubles than you. I too awake crying.
Today we don't talk. We're out of breath from the stairs, and Nahm has always been more of a singer than a talker. I can barely speak unless it's important. Hodak, I rasp, tugging on his robe. I point to a little stall selling the sweets. Nahm frowns when he sees the price, but buys one of the pancakes and splits it with me. We crouch by the curb, feet flat on the ground, and watch the passers-by. I've gotten better at the squat, but my leg is so exhausted from climbing stairs it gives out and I fall on my rump. Nahm laughs, and I giggle too. The old shaman grows quiet as he chews his hodak, thoughtful. His wrinkled lids are closed, and his face is quiet. He smiles like he's dusting off an old memory. He rubs the white stubble on his head, sending up a cloud of flies that had landed there to drink his sweat. I look down at my hands, still holding my half-eaten treat. The winter heat has cracked and dried them. Dots of blood pepper my itchy skin, so Nahm rubs sesame oil into my face and hands. Other than my burns and my bad leg, I'm not so noticeable. Except for my eyes. They're blue. That's unusual for Goryans. Nahm says it's from my deformity. I keep my face down to avoid attention. The winter heat is mild compared to the summer, when you can smell the soles of your shoes liquefying some days. Still today the air is dry. My lungs burn as I struggle to keep up with Nahm. Today's last stop is somewhere special. Nahm explains the 3 districts to me again. Haesong, which we're about to leave. Toryu, where we're headed. Kurom, where we may never go. Kurom was also called the Cloud District, because of the clouds which sometimes cover the buildings. Before our first trip, Nahm explained that Bek is a mountain island. The tallest peak is a caldera. He said that was a lake at the top of a mountain. On an island in the center of the lake is the Temple of Hwanin, the god of Goryo. Surrounding the rim of the caldera is a ring of silver buildings like a crown. I always wanted to see that place. I'm hoping that's where we're going today. Does Hwanin live there? We've caught a platform from the northern outskirts of Haesong, headed to Toryu. The men guarding the place are slow, with dark circles under their half-closed eyes. They opened them wide when Nahm showed them his travel permit, but quickly lost interest and waved him on. Nahm looks confused by my question.
Where?
I clear my throat and motion for water. My voice always hurts when I talk too much. Nahm hands me his little flask, and I take a long drink. The water has gone warm, but it helps. At Kurom, I finish. He shakes his head.
She did before.
The platform takes us out over the dense forests and rocky mountains of Goryo towards Toryu. It floats high over the land like a magic slab of white marble. Despite Nam's reassurances that I won't fall off, I stay far away from the edge. Soon, the outer walls of District 2 rise from the forest. We stop briefly in the checkpoint town here before moving on to Toryu proper. Soon, the buildings of the city flit below us. Well kept, but not so different from those in Haesong. The platform descends slightly, and we make another brief stop here before continuing on. I look out at the forest below, hoping to catch a glimpse of an animal or a Hwarung ranger. Nahm said he'd seen a tiger once, but never a ranger. For a little while, as I look out ahead, I wonder whether we truly are headed to Kurom. I'm disappointed when we disembark at the checkpoint town just outside the city limits. Praise Hwanin, son of Ahura, from whom all blessings flow. I can read the sign, but only barely. Its gold empiric letters span a stretch of the white stone wall that separates Kurom from the checkpoint town. Does Ahura live there? I point to the white walls. If Hwanin no longer lives there, someone must. Nahm doesn't shush me. My voice is too quiet for anyone else to understand.
No, they live in Ortus,
he says.
Kurom is the home of the young Ban, Ahura's Goryan children.
What do they do? I know Haesong, the lower district, well. Our role is to be poor. I even know a little about the middle district. Nahm sometimes does work for the businessmen there. Some of them like shamans, because shamans are good luck. It's usually fine, as long as we avoid the peacekeepers. Nahm calls them PKs for short. Kurom, though, is a mystery. We've never come so close to it before. Our dirty clothes and sugar-stained faces draw rude looks from people living this close to its walls. Nahm looks down at his palm, where his ID would show him things. Money, messages, and directions. He looks again, and again, talking to himself under his breath. A PK stops us, growling that we're in the wrong place. Nahm pales when he sees a red dragon symbol on the white scales of the woman's armor. He bows and stammers, gently guiding me behind him. The PK doesn't seem to notice me. A few whispered words, and a flick of his palm, and Nahm has shared his destination with the officer, who looks surprised and issues us the correct permit. The one we'd been given, apparently, was a mistake. We're on the platform again, headed away from Karom now, into unfamiliar territory. Steadily, we descend into a station we've never seen before. The flies and the smell remind me of Haesong, but as we continue down the cobblestone streets, we pass through a gate and the signage changes from Empiric to Ilbono. We've entered District 4, Ilbon. I don't know anything about the Ilbono district. I don't think Nahm does either. The Ilbono don't understand or care about Goryon rules. The buildings here are even worse than in Haesong. They stretch from our position, all the way to the sea. There are no PKs, and the men wear weapons openly. We pass a cathedral, its white walls turned red in the setting sun. Strangers line the streets murmuring prayers and bowing to the southeast. A deacon stands on a marble cube, preaching in a cold voice. Deacons come down from Mortus to Haesong too, but this one is different. He's got a sword in his belt.
The effectiveness of Ahura's teachings is dependent upon your faith.
I look up at Nahm, but he's still staring at his ID, confused.
Ahura has delivered you from Huanin, but if your faith were without question, would he not have restored Minakanushi already? Would he not return you to the lands of your fathers?
As we pass by the tall pale man, he makes eye contact with me. I quickly look away.
You must act upon Ahura's teachings. You must cast down the idols which control you. The shogunate, the shinobi, the yakuza. This heretical godhead has no place within Ahura's kingdom. These are but the illegitimate dregs of a bygone era, if they are not utterly destroyed. Ahura may yet allow for Huanin's return, and you shall be humbled with yet greater chastisement.
The words of the deacon fade. We push deeper into the district, putting more distance between us and the comforting walls of Beck. Our path snakes through the slums, and the stink of rotting garbage mixes with something the beggars are smoking. It makes my head dizzy, and I sneeze. I tug on Nam's sleeve. He looks up from his ID. We've come to a dead end. Around us looms the filthiest alleyway in all of Goryo. The crumbling buildings lean inward, like giants whispering secrets in each other's ears. The rats come too close, like they're unused to people. Worried, we turn to leave. At the end of the alley, our path is blocked by 3 figures. I hide behind Nahm, peeking past the folds of his robe. The trio is like something from a circus. The first stranger is huge, but beside him stands a man who is only slightly bigger than me. The third is a woman. I'm too afraid to notice anything more.
Juno?
Nahm says the name uncertainly, waving his ID in the air. A club strikes his face. He pushes me away into a pile of crates and boxes. I crawl deeper into the rubble and turn to watch. The figures pummel Nahm with their clubs. The wind picks up. It howls through the broken windows of the nearby buildings. Nam's body twists under their blows. He cries out, but they do not slow. Each thud sends gouts of blood flying across the alley. The wind rises with each strike. It mixes with Nam's voice, shrieking. I press my palms to my ears. The hodioke in my stomach forms a ball of lead and sinks into the ground. The muscles of my face seize up in a horrible expression. My whole body feels like it might tear apart. The wind dies. Nahm has stopped moving, but they keep hitting him, grinding him into the cobblestones, like they're grinding rice. His eyes are like a pair of watery clams. They stare at me, unfocused, as a club comes down hard on his head again and again. One eye sinks into its socket. The other protrudes out. The clouds unsettle the killers, who finally stop. They rummage through his robes and realize it's a shaman they killed. Bad luck, even in Ilbon. The thunder rumbles low and long, and the sky throws down great drops of rain like heavy tears. Eager to go, the smallest of the 3 comes jogging toward me. I push further through the rubble. I don't know what I'm looking for. Something. Anything. I come across an open sewage grate and pull myself in head first, not caring if I'll fit. A piece of the broken entrance tears through my shoulder. The man reaches a tattooed arm down and grabs my leg, so I dig my nails into the rusted walls as he yanks and yanks. Between pulls, I grab something sharp and ram it into his hand. He lets go, and a flash flood of water catches me, dragging me into the dark.